welcome to another Checiegirl Creations video. So this canvas was made using some scrap paints from my mum's art class, and she was doing paint pouring that day. So this background is paint poured, and I used Shawn Petite stencil looking down to stencil that face, and I stenciled it with a sponge and some white acrylic paint. And you can see it's not a perfect stencil, but that's okay. I will add more details later. And now I am spraying through this stencil with some DIY sprays. Some of them are made from inks and some from food coloring, and that's red, orange, blue, and some black. And that stencil is called In the Garden. And I also, you can see that I'm pressing down the front of the canvas just to get some of that excess ink on. Because most of this won't show in the end. This is just kind of a build up because it's more of like a monotone background I'm trying to do here at the moment. And you can see I covered her face because even though I will go over again, I do want her face to stand out a bit more, and I want where her face is to be not as busy as the background. So now I'm going through some papers. These papers are from previous subscription boxes. I'm looking through last year June's box, last year September's box, theme splashes, papers from the launch box from last year, and I'll also be looking through the December box from last year, theme Golden Christmas, and this year's March box, theme Memory Journaling. Sorry about that. So yeah, so I'm just going through because I'm going to cut out some flowers to put in her hair. So she won't really have hair, it'll just really be the flowers. And in the end, I picked papers from this year's March box and last year's September box and the December box as well. I thought those looked quite nice because I didn't want them to be extremely bright. I wanted it to blend that a little bit more with the canvas. So now I'm going to use this die by Checiegirl. It's called, I think it's called Heart and Soul or something like that. And it's like a big die, so you can see it's quite thick. So I won't have to use like the platform. I'll just use the two plates to go around it. And I always have these like templates so that I know how much paper to cut out for each like flower I'm cutting out, so I can cut out different papers at the same time. So you can see there's three different like flower sizes, and you can see how they would layer up. So I use these to like make my brooches. And that flower I'm playing with, that pink one, is from one of the March papers that was cut out from like a previous video, and I didn't end up using it. And I turned off the camera to do all the cutting out. And I cut out quite a few of those like small die cut flowers, and I also cut out flowers from the March papers. I also used some book paper. I used book paper that was sprayed with like a coffee spray I made, as well as plain book paper. And now I'm doing the middles. And I'm using again book paper and the deco paper, and I'm layering them up to add some dimension and like mostly just some interest. And I will be inking the middles, and I made a bit of a mistake actually. I was supposed to ink the flowers before I stuck everything together, but I didn't, so I had to ink it later, but that was fine. It didn't cause too much of a problem. It was just a bit fiddly to ink later on. So I'm cutting out all those middles and I'm sticking those down with tacky glue. Oh, and I am inking the edges with StazOn ink, by the way. And then I'll also be using those leaves that will die cut as well to stick on some of the flowers. And I will have to cut out some of my own leaves that are bigger to go with the bigger flowers. And once all of those were stuck down, I figured out how I wanted to lay everything out. And I took a picture of it with my phone so that I would be able to put it back where I wanted it after I've inked everything. And I have made a canvas like this. I made that one first. It's like on a paintball background as well, but like a dark blue kind of purpley galaxy background, and I had butterflies in her hair. So I will have a photo of that at the end of the video with both of them in, so you can see that. And that video was made for Shawn Petite's creative team, which is why I have some of her stencils. So You'll see that video when it comes out, and I will link it in the iCard in the top right hand corner so you can see that. And yeah, so and I really liked how it looked with the butterflies, so I wanted to do it with the flowers as well, especially since I had these two canvases, because I used the excess paint on two mini canvases and like two canvas boards, so I thought it's about time I use them up. So I'll probably make a video soon using the canvas boards as well. So you can see I'm just inking up everything, and I've finished that up now. So here's a quick close-up. You can see how much I've layered the flowers in different places and with the leaves. And those mini flowers are also from the March papers. So now back to the background. It was looking a bit plain, so I'm using some gold paint from Wilko's and to like add some splashes. And like the previous canvas I used silver, so I want to use gold for this one since this is such a warm color palette. And I'm now going in and adding highlights to her face and in areas like say where she might have makeup, like, you know, like highlights like on her cheeks and like eyeshadow and like lipstick and stuff like that, just to add some detail to her face, because I didn't want to have to do too much. So I wanted her face to be nice and simple. So I'm just adding the gold, and that's literally all I'll add to her face. And then I'll also go over with the stencil afterwards as well, just to add that definition back in, because you can see it's been covered by like spray inks and stuff, even though I was covering it with the paper towel. And you can see how nice and shiny that looks afterwards. And now I'm going to add some more splashes. I'm using some white paint. I thought the canvas looked a bit dark, so I wanted to brighten it up a little bit. And I wanted quite big splashes, so I'm still using that brush. And you can see like the more I splat, the smaller they get, because like the less water you have, the smaller the splats, the more water, the bigger. So that looked quite nice. And now I'll also go in with some of those spray inks to add some color. And what I thought was really cool is that when it dried, like where the inks had touched the white paint, it kind of crackled a little bit, and I'll show you a close-up of that afterwards. And I thought that was really cool. That wasn't planned at all, and I was really happy how that turned out. That was like a really nice texture and like detail added in. So if you look closer, you can see it. So I'll show you that in a little bit. And I added the same colors I sprayed with when I was doing that stenciling earlier on. So that's it before it's dry, and I'll show it to you now while it is dry. So you can see where it's cracked and added a really cool texture. So I was really happy with that. So now it is time to paint the edges. I always like to paint the edges of my canvas because I prefer to display canvases without frames. So that's why I do it. And I've mixed, I think it was like a crimson red with black, to add a really nice dark border just to ground the canvas, because you can see there's not a lot of black in this, but it is quite a dark canvas, which is why it works, because then like with the stenciling, I wouldn't use black, I would use white so that she would stand out. And I'm blending it over the edge just a little bit with my fingers, so it's not a hard edge. I want it to be nice and smooth and blended and cohesive. So I'm adding that, and that was quite a wet brush. And you can see I'm blending it a little bit more with my finger. So once that is finished, I think I will go over stenciling with her face. And for that, I'll be using texture paste from last year June's box, as well with the palette knife from that box as well. So I'm getting the stencil back out. And you can see there's two sizes, which is what I really like about Shawn Petite stencils, actually, how there's two sizes. Like some of the stencils you get like two faces, but they're different sizes, which is really nice, because then I could use it on a big or a small canvas. And I'm using quite a bit of texture paste here. I want it to be nice and thick and smooth. So I'm being quite careful with the palette knife, trying to make sure to hold the stencil down properly, and making sure that I don't like dig out any of like the areas, especially her eyebrows, where there's quite a big space where the palette knife can go in accidentally. And you can see I got a little bit there, but that's okay. You won't really notice it at the end. So you can see how nice and smooth that is. And I'm scraping off the excess and putting it back into the pot. And then I'll put it on some paper towel and give it a big spray of water so that that soaks there, and I can wipe that off easier later on. So, and you can see, of course, she doesn't have shoulders there, so I'm gonna have to add them in with the palette knife and the texture paste. I'm gonna try to make that as smooth as I can. And it was quite tricky actually because the texture paste is really thick now because I have had it for a while. So to get it nice and smooth, like when I stenciled it on, I wasn't able to, but I was able to get it smooth enough. And you'll see how I like use a brush later on to smoothen it out even more. And I'm just going in little by little. And I did add like gold paint where her shoulders would be to help guide me when I'm adding it with the palette knife. And I'll also fill in her chin area there as well with the palette knife. And I won't be drying this with a heat gun because when you do, like, it does bubble up a little bit, and I really do like that effect, but I want it to be nice and smooth. So I didn't do that time, so I just let it air dry naturally. Okay, so now that I've finished with the palette knife, you can see I'm just smoothing it out just a little bit more, like the edges and stuff. I'm going to go over with some white paint with a paintbrush. And oh, sorry, I'm adding the gold first, just over that area where like I accidentally got some texture paste on. I'm just adding those details in again. And I'm going to go in with some white paint on the brush. And the white paint is just literally to like smooth it out a little bit. So you can see now it looks a lot smoother. And I, by accident, kind of smudged her chin a little bit. So I will go in with some of that dark red that I mixed up earlier, and I'll add it underneath her chin and blend it out. And I used a damp brush, so it wasn't like too wet, but it was wet enough so that I can blend it. And you'll see then that it kind of disappears and it's as if it never happened. And I'm just adding that in a few areas, especially on the edge where like the texture paste went over when I painted the sides of the canvas. And just to like smooth that out a little bit and add that detail back in again with the gold. So I was happy with that, and I let that dry for a bit before I went in to stick my flowers. And you can see I'm preparing to stick my flowers down, so I've gotten the photo up on my phone. And I'll be using tacky glue, sorry, not texture paste, tacky glue, to stick down my flowers. And I'm keeping the glue mostly to the middle. One, because I want the petals to stick up, and two, I will have to like add in some of the flowers behind, because I figured it will be easier for me to put down the bigger flowers and then put the smaller flowers in around, so I don't have to be guessing where the smaller flowers have to go, because the bigger flowers are more of a guide. So I'm just sticking those in a little bit. And I didn't think about this before, but I will add some like paper behind the flowers to make sure that they're strong, like the parts of the flowers that hang off the canvas. Like I didn't have to do it with the butterflies with my first canvas because I covered that with like gloss medium, but because I didn't do that with this one because I really liked how it looked matte, I will put some like cardstock behind the flowers that are sticking out, especially the ones that are made out of book paper, just to make it a bit stronger so it can like withstand having to be wrapped up and stuff like that. So I've stuck down everything. The camera started to cut off a little bit, so I apologize for that. It was losing battery, so it was being a bit dodgy. And I'm adding some highlights with my Uniball Signo pen. This is the broad size. And this is my favorite part. It just makes everything pop. I added it to the flowers and her face as well. And I also used it to put my signature and the date on the side of the canvas. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please do give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and thank you if you already are subscribing to my channel. You're really helping me out and I'm really thankful for that. And please do click that bell next to the subscription button to be notified whenever I upload a video. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you join me again for another arty adventure. Bye!